Hey guys, it's God Bars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 134th episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So this is one of those 1991 releases that I mentioned before, where it fits more with these other golden age classics I've been doing, opposed to most of the output from the latter half of the decade. After Main Source altered their lineup after this debut album here, they weren't really able to live up to the legendary status that they accrued from this first LP, mainly due to the absence of rapper-producer Large Professor, who was an absolutely integral part to Breaking Atoms. That still doesn't lessen the impact of the other two members, as both K-Cut and Sir Scratch were talented, prominent DJs and producers who still had massive roles in making the debut such a stellar cut of songs. While Large Pro is mostly known for his impressive and storied career making beats for others, he's also an extremely witty lyricist with a great voice and personality on the mic, and I don't just mean for a producer. This is a dude who is rapping circles around a good amount of the MCs who did that exclusively, and with how prevalent he also happens to be behind the boards, he's always managed to stick out as a true enigma of hip hop, where even just labeling him a student of the culture feels like a drastic underrepresentation. One of the more well-known achievements to come off this LP is the iconic Posse cut live at the barbecue, which was actually the song that debuted Nas as a rapper to the world. This also clearly wasn't some sort of, oh, we just worked with this kid once and he had a spot on the album, but we don't really know him. It's clear that Large Pro and the others saw something special in him, because Nas even gets a shout out on a completely separate earlier song in the album. Of course, Nas would repay this favor by recruiting Large Pro as one of the titans of the industry to work on Illmatic, alongside DJ Premier, Pete Rock, Q-Tip, and some others. That's really just the peak of the iceberg when it comes to Large Professor's stacked production discography, though, as he completely produced the first Akinyele album, which I've been trying to find on vinyl forever. Akinyele is also one of the features here besides Nas, and so is Joe Fatal, who actually appears on a couple of the songs throughout this thing. But back to Large Pro, he also did a good chunk of the beats on another album I discussed pretty recently, that being Cool G Rap and DJ Polo's Wanted Dead or Alive. I've actually heard he did the vast majority of them, he just isn't properly credited for it. Just a few of the other classics he contributed at least one or more instrumentals to include Pete Rock and CL Smooth's Mecca and the Soul Brother, Diamond D and the Psychotic Neurotics with Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop, Midnight Marauders by Tribe Called Quest, as well as The Last Stand by Boot Camp Click. You can really find Large Professor's fingertips on all corners of the genre, from working with acts like Jurassic 5 or Jeru the Damaja, all the way to acts like CNN or Capone and Noriega, and even Homeboy Sandman. But Breaking Atoms is where he really displayed his talent for crafting entire album experiences with a group of songs that all stay focused on the theme and overall point that they work toward building. From the very first song on here, we get led into the journey with a killer sample opening up Snake Eyes, which then changes into another dope beat for Large Pro to spit some game over. This is one of the many tracks on here that has a pretty well thought out concept, with this opener utilizing dice games to make a myriad of interesting, creative, and thought-provoking points. He gives you food for the brain with the first few lines, spitting, rolling dice can help you or hurt you. Your virtue is knowing when to quit because you've hit your cash curfew. Even if you have to swift and swindle, it's as long as you win. So off court and just simple, I see people roll dice with lives, telling lies and cutting close like knives. For a sandwich and shelter would probably sell the clothes on a man's back for fame and wealth, or go with the next man's girl and hit the skins, get in his face and say, oh, we're best friends. This isn't even near the only flawlessly executed theme on Breaking Atoms, though, with arguably the best example being the breakup song Looking at the Front Door, which quickly became one of the most successful tracks to Main Source's name through its candor and relatability. It's also an angle you normally don't hear about that often, where instead of talking about a girl he's interested in, who doesn't feel the same way, or the love of his life leaving him, he discusses the preliminary stages to a breakup, where you see all the signs that things aren't going to work out, but are still trying to muster up the courage to actually walk out of that person's life. Which is obviously what the title is in reference to, as it gives the image of someone in a difficult situation who keeps eyeing his only escape, but hasn't worked up the guts to actually try it, or maybe they're convincing themselves that this isn't a bad situation. That song is insanely ahead of its time, especially for 1991, and so is the Genius concept track where Large Pro breaks down how race relations and life at large are really just one big friendly game of baseball, where he once again displays his forward-thinking pen, making handfuls of slick double entendres and metaphors that are backed by his own infectious production. While the breakout verse by Nas left a giant footprint in the culture, I still wanted to share a few of the more iconic lines just for anyone who hasn't heard this gem. The all-time great breaks down the first verse on the Posse track with "Streets disciple, my raps are trifle. I shoot slugs from my brain just like a rifle. Stampede the stage, I leave the microphone split. Play Mr. Tuffy while I'm on some pretty tone shit. Verbal assassin, my architect pleases. When I was 12, I went to hell for snuffing Jesus. Nasty Nas is a rebel to America. Police murderer, I'm causing hysteria. My troops roll up with a strange force. I was trapped in a cage and let out by the main source. With such an iconic moment, it would be a crime to not have Live at the Barbecue as one of my top 3 favorites, and it's in good company alongside Looking at the Front Door and Just a Friendly Game of Baseball. But when it comes to my honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut for my top songs, I want to shout out tracks like Snake Eyes, Just Hanging Out, Large Professor, Peace is Not the Word to Play, He Got So Much Soul or He Don't Need No Music, and Watch Roger Do His Thing. Thank you for watching my 134th video. Next time we're going to return to the native tongues, but we're going to discuss another one of those groups that's kind of on the outskirts. So tune in for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs off this classic debut LP are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.